lies, intimidation, criminality. Day 4 of the January 6th hearings coming up. Breakdown starts now. Welcome to the Breakdowns post-January 6th hearing edition. Rick Wilson and I are here to break it all down for you, give our reactions and in real time. And Rick, I say this after every hearing, even though we are like neck deep in this stuff, it never ceases to amaze me the level of emotion that I go through during these hearings, from anger to sorrow to rededicated purpose to just infuriation. Like I am, did I just make that word up? Infuriation. I think I coined a new word. I coined a new word. It is just, there's just so much. And we continue to learn more, and we continue to see how this Donald Trump concocted MAGA lie about the election, and how he knew that it wasn't stolen. He knew that it was free and fair, and yet continued to do all the things that he did to intimidate people, to go after these election officials to get what he wanted. He didn't care, and how it impacted lives. I'm so furious about what I just watched after this hearing today, that I don't even know where to start on it. There's just so much to go over, but let's go in order. Let's start with
let's go in order.
Let's go in order. Let's start with the first round of witnesses. Rick, what stood out to you the most? Because I gotta say,
I have to say, watching the Arizona House Speaker, watching Bowers out there. Yesterday there was this little kerfluffle in the social media world, the political world, about this Eric Greitens ad out of Missouri. And everyone was very upset, and he, talking about hunting rhinos and playing, cosplay SEAL team shit. And he was a former SEAL, but not like an operator. And everyone lost their mind about it. But Republicans were like, yeah, he's a real man. That's what a man does. Well, guess what? Well, you saw a man today, 70-year-old bald guy from Arizona, Mormon, straight-laced, conservative Republican, who said, no, I will not cheat in an election. I will not subvert the Constitution. I will not break my oath. I will not break faith with my state and the American people to put Donald Trump, who he preferred, who he voted for, who he supported. He would not do that to put Trump back in office. That is what a man looks like. That is what a stand-up guy looks like. That is what a person who you can disagree with him all day long about ideology or politics or policy. But when it came down to the fundamental moral choice, do you cheat and put Trump back in office? Or do you stand your ground and take the death threats and the abuse and the hate and the media smash mouth play against you and all of the grotesqueries that come with the Trump attack world, which is all they have, by the way.
Right. And Bowers, when he said, first of all, what stood out to me with his testimony, besides his dedication to the Constitution and democracy and his oath of office over Donald Trump, was the fact that he actually told Donald Trump no.
Correct.
Which was something that, most people didn't have the balls to do. If more people had told the bully no and to stop it, I don't think we would be here right now. But he was willing to do that, as was Gabe Sterling and Brad Raffensperger, frankly, in Georgia, those guys. But this was somebody, and I didn't really know Bowers' role in all of this. His in the role that he played in all this was new information to me.
Right. Well, Tara, I think the other important part here is there's a pattern that goes throughout all the witness testimony today. What is that part of the pattern? Is that Rudy Giuliani and all the other Trump lawyers and Jenna Ellis, Rudy Giuliani, Cuckoo Pants Eastland, Cleta, all these people. What's the through line? They're all full of shit.
Yes.
They're completely fucking bullshitting. They're making it up. They never had a case. They never had any evidence. They never had a single scintilla of proof or even inference that Trump was cheated out of this election. This was a scam by these people. They should, every freaking one of them, be disbarred immediately. They should be prosecuted for the fraudulent attacks on these people and the threats that have come against these people's lives. And look, folks, there's nothing in this world that is more dangerous than a lawyer who feels empowered to lie.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do. A lot of them feel very empowered to go out and stretch it as far as they possibly can. Well, guess what? These folks lied, and they almost burned the goddamn country to the ground over it. These folks lied, and they knew they were lying. Oh, yeah, we'll get it to you later. We've got the evidence somewhere in a bag. We have something somewhere. And I'm sorry, that story in all these different cases. And look, you have Trump on tape, which we've heard before, but it was contextualized today with Raffensperger sitting there on the witness stand.
Yes.
Walking through Trump's insistent, continuous, repetitive lies that Raffensperger knew and that Trump knew were bullshit. And Trump continuing just grinding away at him. Please, give me my votes. Give me my 11,000 votes. You'll be happier. I'll be happier. And by the way, one side note about this that I just found so cheesy and trite and venal and stupid and classically Trumpian is Mark Meadows thinking, oh, we're going to send them some autographed MAGA hats. That'll change their minds.
Yeah.
Wampum and beads. What are you going to trade them shells for the island of Manhattan? Get the fuck out of here.
Just for people who didn't see the hearing today, during the testimony of the Georgia officials, we heard more of that famous tape of Trump trying to intimidate Raffensperger, this Georgia Secretary of State, to find the votes for him.
Right.
And we find out that from the Georgia State investigator, right? This was like the Georgia version of the FBI.
Right, GBI.
You're right. They were looking into all these bullshit accusations that the Trump campaign and others were throwing out there. And they investigated most of it. They had to, right? They had an obligation to make sure that the election was free and fair. And Trump tried to intimidate the investigator. And then Mark Meadows sent, because the investigator, they stopped answering their calls at one point because they realized this is completely inappropriate. They tried to send him a bunch of MAGA shit, thinking that was going to motivate them. My gosh, I gotta make America. I got a MAGA magnet. I'm so thrilled. That's it. I'm going to,
Man, this T-shirt changed my whole perspective on the stolen election and the idea that Trump could wreck American democracy.
Right. No. I got a MAGA magnet.
I burned the Republic down, and all I got is this lousy T-shirt.
Get the fuck out of here. But the point is that they thought that's how strong the cult of personality was around Trump, how we've said this all the time, that that's what they thought was an incentive. It's insane. By the way, all that shit was made in China. But anyway, like his hats. I want a couple things. One, also, as we're live now, if you guys have questions and comments, please send them in to us through either Facebook or the chat in YouTube, or hashtag Ask the Breakdown on Twitter. We want to hear from you. We've been taking your questions and your comments lately. We like keep doing that. We like it. We like to hear from you. So send those in. To your point also about Bowers, the speaker, the Republican Speaker of the House of the state of Arizona. I want to show a clip of him talking about the importance of his oath, because I think people need to see that.
I think so too. It's good. It's a good clip.
You are asking me to do something that is counter to my oath when I swore to the Constitution to uphold it, and I also swore to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona, and this is totally foreign as an idea or a theory to me, and I would never do anything of such magnitude without deep consultation with qualified attorneys. And I said, I've got some good attorneys, and I'm going to give you their names. But you are asking me to do something against my oath, and I will not break my oath. And I think that was up to that point.
Thank God. Thank God for him and for a couple of the others in Georgia. But the point is that next time around, those guys aren't going to be there, or they may not be there. And the MAGAs know this, which is why they're trying to intimidate so many election officials to quit their jobs or run against them and defeat them in primaries. I said this last time, over 100 election deniers have won Republican primaries for various offices across this country. They are trying to intimidate people, the good ones, out of there so that they can replace them with these people. Right. And that's what we cannot allow, because that's what they want. And that's what this is really all about, because then you can kiss our free and fair elections goodbye if these people get power.
Tara, that's absolutely correct. And the idea that they are managing to intimidate poll workers and volunteers who go to man polling centers and managing to intimidate professional election workers out of their jobs, it is something that I think we need to take a much closer look at. It is a bigger deal than we think. They're going to replace them with lunatics who are promising in advance that they will do whatever it takes to put Donald Trump back in power, no matter what the vote is.
Yes.
And one of the things Republicans love to do is they always say, like, we're not a democracy, we're a republic.
Yeah.
Yes, we are a republic, but we are based on democratic principles. And one of the most fundamental principles of that republic is that voting is the expression of the public will. They do not want you to vote. They want their people to vote. They do not want to make it easy for you to vote. They want to make it as hard as they can. They want to make it as difficult and as steep a curve as they can to get you in there. They want to make the lines long because there's nobody there to volunteer. Or if you do volunteer, they want to have, or if they do get volunteers, they want these QAnon lunatics there. But you need to go out, folks, in every state in this country, and we'll do something about this through the union.
Yes.
Join the union.us. We'll do something on the union to give you directions on how to work as a poll volunteer in your state. That's a really, really important job. You only have to do it. It really takes about a week out of your fall. There's some training generally before you work on election day or in the early voting window. It's really meritorious. It's really important for the country, and I really hope you'll go out and do it. We'll put some links up about that, both on LP and on jointheunion.us.
We hammered this point home during 2020 as well, before all hell broke loose.
We did.
We anticipated that they were going to try and mess around with the elections through volunteers or observers and all that, not knowing that the shitstorm it was going to turn into. Now, it's imperative. It is absolutely imperative that the good folks continue to volunteer and not let the MAGA crazies take over, because our democracy literally depends on that. And if these hearings aren't driving that home, I really don't know what will. Because if we, even our in-house, we practice what we preach. Sure. One of our senior producers, Sam, he went and he volunteered and signed up. Last year when we were talking about this, he was like, you know what? I'm going to go do it. And he did. And he was an election worker in the off-year elections. And I presume he's going to do it again for midterms. But it's so critically important, which is part of the reason why we incubated the union. Because so many people came to us after the election to say, what can I do? Or I did it and I want to do it again. Thank you. And we wanted to have a clearinghouse for people so that they could use their skills who wanted to get involved. Because a lot of folks don't know what to do. So go ahead and check out the union. I'm sure there's a place for you depending on your skills and what you want to do. They'll find you and connect you. Back to what happened with the testimony. I want to play something else, because the idea that there was no evidence, we know that this was all a bunch of bullshit. We knew at the time, but so did Donald Trump, and so did his people. The loudest megaphones, like Giuliani and the rest of them, out in public preaching all this BS, but they knew they didn't have any evidence. They knew it, which just makes this just even that much more sinister. At least if they believed it, you could be like, well, they're off their rockers, but they believed it. They knew it was bullshit, which makes it even 10 times worse. Here's a clip where Bowers is talking to Giuliani, and Giuliani says, like, no, there's just no evidence, but we wish there was, but there's not. Let's take a listen.
At some point, did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say, and how did that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence.
I have a lot of theories too. I think the Nazis built a base on the moon.
Oh my gosh.
I think that Zoroastrianism is making a comeback. I have a lot of theories. I just have no evidence of them. I mean, for fuck's sake. But again, this is what these people were trying to do. They knew they were lying. They were all lying in their role as officers of the court, as attorneys. Therefore, they should not be officers of the court. For instance, I'll give you one. Jenna Ellis,
this one,
who was just hired to be Doug Mastriano's senior legal advisor.
Of course.
In Pennsylvania.
How does she still have a law license? And Rudy Giuliani is suspended.
The good Lord only knows. But these people who were involved in this fraud at every level, they should not be admitted to courts in this country. They should not be allowed to practice law. The abuse of their power, it would be like doctors just performing random experimental surgery under false pretenses.
Right. There is an ethics code.
I'm going to cut your arm off because I think you have a flesh-eating virus. You don't have they
no evidence though. But I feel like that little rash you have there is a flesh-eating virus. So I'm going to
you got to take the arm off. Sorry.
You're right. It's insane, and I would hope that there are. I mean, with Rudy Giuliani, at least his law license has been suspended. It may be permanently taken from him.
Right. They're in the process of it, and apparently Eastman's is under investigation right now by the state of California. And let's hope, because look, and the other day I said something about this, and someone was like, "Why would you want to deprive them of the only way they can make a living?" Are there no workhouses? I don't care. They're not attorneys. These people are goddamn criminals.
That's correct, and you don't get to abuse that and say, "Well, it's my only livelihood." Well, there are rules, there are standards of ethics. There's, that if you break them,
call me crazy.
Yeah, like if you break them, then if there's malpractice, then you don't get to practice it anymore. Hello, I'm sorry. And you're right, Rick. I think a lot of this is criminal. It's criminal what these people have done.
I think the fact that they went to these people, the Speaker of the Arizona House, and look, we didn't hear from all the people in Georgia they tried to browbeat. They also tried to get a special session in the Georgia legislature. They went around the horn trying to find ways to suborn this election and subvert this election.
Don't forget the fake electors. That was a part of this. That whole scheme.
Now that story, and I have not had a chance to really dig into that story yet, but it looks like our friend Ron Johnson, and by friend I mean someone I wouldn't slow down to run over, in Wisconsin, was directly involved in some of these slates of fake voters in both Michigan and Wisconsin. We'll learn more about the story, but it certainly is not a good look on Ron right now.
No, and DOJ is very interested in this. The Department of Justice is looking into this. I believe that there's a grand jury that's it.
That is my understanding. There's a grand jury.
Yeah, because this is serious. Because that is a conspiracy, multi-state conspiracy to come up with fake electors to disrupt the election. That's not legal. And we saw the videos of those people trying to get into, was it Michigan? The Michigan State House saying, "Oh no, we're the electors." They're like, "No, the electors are actually already here." They're like, "Well, we're the rest of them." They're like,
"No, bless your heart,
not so much." But it wasn't only there. We found out that there was this Green Bay sweep, and there were 7 states, and there was a whole plan concocted. This wasn't some willy-nilly individual people coming up with these cockamamie ideas. They were
going
connected.
Back to the lawyers again. And look, there are a lot of names we have not talked about yet, but these plans in the states were not executed by randos they picked out from behind the bus station. They were executed by attorneys who they paid. There's a paper trail. We will learn their names. We will learn who they are, and they should be held to account. It's not some exercise of political discretion or free speech. They were engaged in a criminal conspiracy to overthrow a free and fair election in the United States of America.
That's correct.
So
and these
this
hearings
idea
are really
that Ron Johnson is just going to say, "Staff did it, wasn't me."
Right.
I'm going to go and use the technical legal term from election law called horseshit, because I don't believe that.
Right. That's right. And somebody, what we already know, because between Giuliani Giuliani incessantly leaving messages for people, begging them to talk about all the evidence, and we've got if you just talk, I know you don't want to talk to me anymore now, but we still want you to engage in extrajudicial election rigging.
Oh, sure, let's just do that.
Yeah, let's just do that. But
Tara, can we just talk for a second about the heroes of the day?
Yes.
Like the rock star performances of the day.
Yeah.
That were so raw and genuine and painful and beautiful.
Yep.
And Shay and Ruby.
Yes.
Are goddamn American heroes.
Yes.
Okay. And the fear that Shay had, the absolute terror, you could see it rolling off of her like heat waves when she was at that microphone at first. That's from a person who's been terrorized.
Yes.
That's from a person who's been terrorized by the former president of the United States and his low scumbag, sewage-sucking minions at every level. She's been threatened. She's been intimidated. She's been besmirched. She's been defamed by Giuliani, by
Trump himself,
by their media outlets and their minions. Their lives have been put in immediate danger. And you know what? She still showed up and told the truth.
Yes.
She still showed up and gave evidence, bore witness to what happened. Unlike the tough guy swagger monkeys like Steve Bannon and Mike Flynn, they're the real manly men. We're going to they took the fifth. They ran like scalded fucking dogs from the truth.
And Liz Cheney made that point at the end by thanking Shay and her mom for how brave they were coming forward and doing this, unlike the people you just mentioned. And she also put Pat Cipollone on the hot seat as well, the White House counsel, saying, hey, we'd love to hear from you. You know all about what was going on. And they were trying to do the right thing, at least in the White House counsel's office. We're going to hear from his deputies, but not him. Which I find interesting. These guys, they were all fighting for it then. They're all pro-democracy, except when it matters, like now. Right. I want to say something else about Lady Ruby, who was Shay Moss's mom. Shay Moss, who was a Black female election worker, full-time. Her mom, she brought her in to participate in this process because they were proud of that.
A volunteer.
That's right. And, my heart broke for Shay, because even now, after listening to everything that her and her family have gone through, what it has cost them to simply do their patriotic duty as Americans. And it hits home even more so, in particular for the Black community, because of the absolute terrorism that Blacks had to go through in this country for centuries. And only as, my mom was alive when Black folks still couldn't. My mom's white, but I'm saying my point is that this is not that long ago, that generation where Black folks still didn't have the right to vote fairly. It wasn't until 1965. Okay. So that wasn't that long ago in the greater scheme of things.
The one threat she recounted that I think says everything about MAGA today, everything about the MAGA movement. And by the way, I know that you MAGAs listening are going to lose your minds when we call you racists. Because it triggers you more than anything else for some mysterious reason.
Yeah.
But when they said to her, you're lucky it's 2020 and not 1920.
That's where I was going. Yeah. We know exactly what that means.
We'll probably never know who tweeted that or sent her that message. I hope we find out someday. But listen, if by some chance, some reason, somehow, some way, the person who sent that message to her has the slightest scintilla of manhood or integrity, let us know who you are. Be famous. Put your views out there in public. Don't be a chicken shit little weasel. Let's see how you like it when the microphone and the magnifying glass gets turned back on you, motherfucker.
Yes.
It's just like, you know what, Tara, you've been through it.
Oh, I mean, I get it.
Have been through it.
You and I both have been through it. Any of us who have spoken up for what's right and for the truth, we've had to endure this. But obviously, we were undeterred, because we won't let these motherfuckers win, and we will not let them intimidate us. And Lady Ruby and Shay, even though you could see the palpable fear
Yep.
that they still have, and how Shay actually feels bad that it's her fault in some way, that her
Yep.
mom and her grandmother had to go through this. I mean, these lynch mob bastards went to her 70-year-old grandmother's house to try to execute a citizen's arrest.
Yep.
Do you know what that was like? What that trigger was like, especially for the Black community in the
I
South?
literally
Do you know what that
cannot
reminds
imagine
them of?
Sarah, I cannot conceive of the absolute outright terror that would induce in an African American. I can't.
Right.
I have no way to judge
Especially a woman
that
of that
experience.
age who lived through that kind of terrorism, that domestic terrorism, as a Black woman in the South. How dare they do this? And all for what? Because Donald Trump, who is another racist bastard, called this woman out by name, and it was no accident that they picked out the Black election workers so that they could villainize them. They could, vilify them.
Right.
And he called her, he used her mother's name, Lady Ruby, who's like a pillar in her community, who said that she doesn't even want to use her name anymore.
He called her a hustler, a scammer, a vote scammer, and a hustler.
Which is code, we all know, dog whistle.
Yeah, we know what that code spells.
Okay. And now this woman doesn't feel comfortable using her name anymore. The moniker that she was so proud of, building her business and in her community. Yep. She doesn't. Are you kidding me? That's what these bastards have done to these people, and they think there's something wrong with it.
Is prisoner and a random number after it.
Yeah, no kidding.
No
kidding.
I got to tell you, we have seen this pattern of intimidation, and I have to tell you, as a parent, knowing what my kids went through, knowing the shit these fucking people brought on my kids. And by the way, Steve Bannon was one of the ones who ordered it. You can never get away from me, Steve. I will find you to your last fucking dying breath, and I will never stop. The things they did to my kids, I was feeling that welled up in me like crazy during this thing, because they want to threaten and intimidate the families of people who stand up. They think they're going to break them. They think they're going to run them into the shadows. And you know what? The irony is, right now, the ones they've run into the shadows are also the ones in the Republican Party who pretend to be the biggest manly men and the biggest swaggerers, the biggest swinging dicks. They've broken these people so thoroughly, so effectively. I mean, if Donald Trump asked Marco Rubio to drink a shit milkshake, he'd do it right now. If he asked Ted Cruz,
he'd ask him for a straw.
Right, exactly. If he asked Ted Cruz to go out and sniff his underwear, Ted would say, "These smell like dandelions and sunshine."
That's right. And he probably would say that, I'll wear them.
These people so thoroughly, and they run from accountability. They run from responsibility. And you know what? You got a woman. I don't know what she made when she was in the Secretary of State's office. Probably $50,000 a year, state worker money. Okay, that woman today, she's got nothing to gain by speaking the truth, except the joyous relief of being in the right and standing up for the right.
Let me tell you what, that right there is the personification of the resilience of Black women in this country.
There you go.
The Black experience in this country is something that that Republicans are afraid now. They're afraid of that being taught, right? That's the whole fear behind critical race theory, and
we can't talk about slavery because
and that's bullshit. That's not the case. It's about the lived experience of Black folks in this country and what they've gone through, and especially how Black women, the strength and resilience of Black women in the Black community, being pillars of the community and carrying it all on their backs. And those women, even after everything, the president of the United States went out, name checked her and her family, and they still stood up, and they did not allow him to intimidate them. And they are heroes for that. They are the American dream. They are the patriots, not these other bastards who you said are crawling under rocks, scared to death with their tails between their legs because they're afraid of a tweet from Donald Trump. It's unbelievable. And then they have the audacity to try to vilify, folks like her for doing her job. Right. And they were the ones protecting democracy when those other ones, like the MAGA maggots, were trying to tear it down and still are. So God bless Ruby and her family.
One of the things somebody pointed out to me a few minutes ago in a text message, a friend of mine from Georgia, he goes, 1, they fucked with the wrong African-American women, but 2, they fucked with African-American women from Atlanta. That is a mistake.
I mean, it's It's funny, but they also try to break them and ruin their lives. But again, I just go
Now,
back
they've
to the
already won
resilience.
a lawsuit, a settlement with OAN.
Good.
They're going to win a settlement against that egregious fuck nugget Jim Hoft from the Gateway Pundit,
Ugh.
who combines a sort of stupidity and malice in equal measures. And they've got a case against Giuliani as well.
Yep.
And I wish them the very best of luck in all these.
Yep.
Not that they're going to get anything off of Rudy except like what, a split of his cameo income. But
you know what? Even if it adds to Giuliani's penance, then let it, because Giuliani should really end up behind bars, as should Eastman. It's looking more and more. We're hearing the reports that Trump is pulling he was a coffee boy now with Eastman, because it looks so bad.
Yes, he
and
was.
Trump literally
that's what he's doing. That's
right?
what he's doing.
I
don't know what
what's his
he's
name?
doing.
Right. Never heard of him. Never heard of him. Really?
I will bet you any amount of money Eastman and Giuliani prepared Trump for those calls with Raffensperger.
Oh,
Powers.
For sure.
Any amount of money, they prepped him. They were in the room.
Of course they were. You could tell that he was reading from like a checklist of things to say specifically. And
there was like Trumpian riffing around it, but he was like, here are your 3 points.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. And you could see the petulance or you could hear it in his voice when he was challenged on, that this is just not the case, or it's not true. And he was just like, are you talking about the law enforcement officers? Well, they're incompetent then. They must be incompetent.
Right.
Really?
Okay, back the blue. Sure.
Yes, exactly. What did you say? They don't back the blue, they attack the blue. Right. And you hear it right there in Trump's petulance in that. It was just out freaking rageous. But again, I think today we saw a lot. And one other clip I want to show that shows the personal cost to these guys. Now, obviously, I feel some kind of way about them supporting Trump at all to begin with. The fact that they voted for him, like, what the hell is, what are you doing? But when it mattered, they put country over party, and I will give them credit for it. But this is, I remember when this happened, I think we talked about it contemporaneously at the time, when Gabe Sterling went off during that press conference. And because we were like, wow, like what? Here you have some, a Georgia Secretary of State deputy who basically bitch slapped Donald Trump and told him to cut it out, talking to him like the child that he is from, took him on. And we were like, yes. But I want to show this part because we didn't know at the time that they had gone after his daughter-in-law. They lost their son, so his daughter-in-law is a widow. And listen to this portion of his testimony. It's unbelievable.
Some people broke into my daughter-in-law's home, and my son has passed, and she's a widow and has 2 kids. And so we're very concerned about her safety also.
And Mr. Secretary, why didn't you just quit and walk away?
Because I knew that we had followed the law and we had followed the Constitution. And I think sometimes moments require you to stand up and just take the shots when you're doing your job. And that's all we did. We just followed the law and we followed the Constitution. And at the end of the day, President Trump came up short. But I had to be faithful to the Constitution.
So it was Raffensperger's daughter-in-law, my fault, not Gabe Sterling's. But Gabe Sterling heard about that and just freaking lost it. And then he also heard about how they went after a black contractor who, like an IT guy who's just doing his job, and they doxed him. And Gabe Sterling was like, basically like, what the actual fuck? He was so furious about it. And that's when he went out and gave that impassioned press conference where he said, cut this out or somebody's going to get killed, Donald Trump. Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And no one else had done that. Could you imagine if Kevin McCarthy or Mitch McConnell or any of them had done that? I think it would and they came together and all stood strong to tell Donald Trump, no, stop it. You're not going to do that. Sarah, it would be a different thing.
I have told them this. I wrote about this starting in 2015, that the day you stand up, you can look at it this way with Donald Trump. Even if he's the most powerful force in the party, you can die on your feet or die on your knees.
Yep.
I'm going to prefer in my life to always die on my feet, not on my knees.
That's right.
And the idea that the idea that these people have no moral center, it reduces them tremendously. I don't know what's binging and dinging here. Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
I
But
have
yes.
22 new calendar notifications.
Oh, wonderful.
Who
Well,
knew?
but to finish your point, Rick, that's right. These people have no moral compass. They have no moral foundation, and they've abdicated any type of moral righteousness to say anything about anybody.
Correct.
They've completely relinquished that based on their behavior. And the thing about it is they all knew it. And to
And
sum
we're
it up,
in a conspiracy, folks.
that's correct, which is
Put
a
that word in your
legal
head.
term. Legal term.
Conspiracy.
Legal term.
Legal term.
Legal
I'm
term.
not a lawyer, but I play one on TV from time to time.
And continue to pay attention to what Liz Cheney has been saying, because when she wraps things up, she uses her words very carefully, because they are really trying to lay the predicate here for the DOJ to move forward for criminal charges here.
That's right.
That's their goal, and whether they want to be explicit about that or not, but that's what they're doing. Because remember, the committee cannot charge. That's not their job.
That's right.
It's DOJ's
Not
job,
charge.
right? So we're hoping that they're paying attention. And based on the fact that they want the transcripts, I think DOJ is actually paying attention. And the fact that we're not hearing about it means they're doing their job. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well,
the fact that it's not
there was
leaking.
a documentary crew filming Trump for months and months and months in all these private meetings, and that the committee has discovered that this person exists and they're getting his video.
Yes, that's breaking news today.
That was breaking this morning.
Yes.
And I've been trying to chase that story all day, and apparently there is a large-scale meltdown in Trump world right now over this.
Good.
So we will look forward to that as we go forward. Hey, did we have any questions, or do we?
Yeah. Let's look.
We want to wrap this.
While they're pulling those up, self-pride comes before a fall. They had those people following them around.
Any polling how various groups of voters think about the hearings. Well, what we have seen so far, thanks for the question, it's a good one. What we've seen so far is enormous public interest, and the number of folks who believe Trump should be held legally accountable has gone up, 60%. And it is directly correlated with these hearings. So 60%. We are starting to see that. The MAGAs, it's not moving their numbers because their numbers aren't movable.
No, but the ABC poll that came out over the weekend showed that I think it was either a third or a quarter of Republicans think that Donald Trump, right? A quarter of Republicans think Donald Trump should be charged and responsible. Folks. Yes, way beyond that. So, but that's a lot. Sure. That's a big number for the Republicans.
It is a good number, and it is a good number, and it is a number that that it tells me a couple things. Democrats shouldn't get too happy about it. Some of those people want Ron DeSantis or Ted Cruz or somebody else, and they are done with Trump. But some of those people are just like, I'm washing my hands of this entire filthy enterprise. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, there's been a lot of stories coming out, strategically timed pro DeSantis stories, not by accident, about how much money he's raising, about how much money he's raising. He's raised over $100 million. How Trump's financiers are now sending money to Ron DeSantis, and these glowing profiles about how DeSantis is the new Trump, but without the baggage. That is not an accident, folks. Not an accident. They smell blood in the water here. No, and we who's been calling this for a year now? Exactly. What's the next one? Tara and Rick, in a nutshell, how can we frame these hearings? Are they a fine-tuned political ad for 2022 and 24, or is there a reasonable expectation that DOJ will take some kind of action? I mean, I think we kind of addressed this, where I think it's a combination of both. Where it's different tracks. There's DOJ and what they're going to do, and we're hopeful that people will pay a price for this. There needs to be accountability, right. But there's also a huge warning sign. We're at like DEFCON 1, people, concerning the threat to our democracy. And I'm hoping that the more the committee shows how this has impacted everyday people, that the American people will realize that there are real world consequences to this. And I think that they've done that effectively thus far. I just hope that it's getting through. But people need to realize that, Judge Luttig said this in the last hearing. He said that we are on the knife's edge. Our democracy is on the knife's edge, and the hour is late, and that God is watching us. It's up to us.
Yeah, it really is, folks. It really is up to us. Well, Thursday is going to be a hell of a day. Today was a hell of a day.
Yes. And there's more to come.
More to come. Hey,
there's more to come.
Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Do we have a last week in the Republican Party?
I think we might.
I think we should.
I think, you know what? Why not?
No, wait, hold on. We
Do
don't.
we?
It's not done?
Oh, it's not ready yet.
Damn
That's
it.
okay. No
All right,
worries.
we'll post it online for you folks later.
Yes, it is Tuesday, so you'll get the last week in the Republican Party, just not now because we're live a little early.
We got the weird show timing with the whole committee thing. So
That's all right. That's
a
all
little
right.
looser.
That's all right. Well, we'll definitely see you guys on Thursday.
Yep.
And we'll be back to our regular time Thursday live at 7.
Mhm.
And there'll be more to come.
All right, folks. Have a great night.